Hi everyone, this is Milo from NovaMail. Today we're going to do a full product walkthrough. I'm on the NovaMail.app website, so I'm going to check out this Easter letter by looking at the format page, and this page lists all of the components of this package with full descriptions of every element, so you can look that over. I've decided this is what I want to do, so I can click Get Started. Should take me directly over to the application for the Easter letter. First thing I need to do is sign in. So at the top right, choose Sign In. I'll use my Google account. And I'm in. I can scroll through these preview images one last time if I wanted to confirm that this was what I wanted to do. This looks great. I noticed that this letter is 2 pages front and back, and I'm going to show you how to customize this. Today I'd only like to use the front side of this letter, so I'll show you how to personalize that. We're ready to get started, so let's name this project. Call this my Easter podcast letter number 1. I could give it a description if I wanted to, and click Start Project. The first thing we do with NovaMail is provide the data file. And so we can either drag and drop a CSV to this location or browse to it on our folder system. If you've never used NovaMail before, we provide the data template on this page as well. So you can just click Download Template, and we'll have additional videos on walking you through all of the details of the data file. But for today, we'll just use the one that I've got prepared. So I'm going to browse to this file. Choose my CSV. NovaMail maps the column headers automatically, matches everything up, and then displays it on screen. From here we can paginate through the data and review on screen. If there's any changes that you'd like to make, right over here on the left of this data box is a Replace Data button. You could click that to replace the data file. In this case, this all looks great, and I'm ready to proceed. At the top of the web page here, you can kind of see a path for where this design goes. First we upload data, then we design the letter, then we check out. It's as easy as 1, 2, 3 to create a direct mail piece in NovaMail. So I could either click Design Letter from here or just click Next, and it'll progress down the path. The next thing it brings up is the Design Your Letter stage. There's 3 components to this direct mail package. There's the carrier envelope. This is obviously the envelope that the package is going to be delivered in to your donors. Then there's the letter front and back, which we'll personalize, and then there's the return envelope. So we need to look at all of these pieces before we check out. For obvious reasons, we don't want to check out and purchase a product we haven't reviewed. So once you purchase it, it's going to start production and it's off, it's out the door. There are no more changes available. So that's why it's really important to take your time and review this package. A few things on the interface here I'll point out, and we'll have other detailed videos highlighting some of these things as we go. But on this floating toolbar here, enabling you to turn on or off the borders, it's really a helpful feature. So when I turn it off, you can see that now this mail piece is nice and clean. I can still hover over the different pieces to see the borders. This is helpful for editing. This is helpful for moving pieces around, but it's cleaner to look at without. And then this ghost mode enabled, I'll just turn that off, and that will help the background images to come forward at full opacity. So let's get started updating this direct mail piece. So I want to put my own logo on this. Right now it's got a generic food bank logo. So let's just double click on this. And you can see we get a dialog box that gives us all of the controls for this image. And so all we need to do is upload a new image. It's as easy as clicking the Add Images menu option, and then we'll browse to our images here. In this case, I would like my logo with no words. Each time you upload an asset, it wants you to verify that you're the rightful owner, and I am, so I will upload that image. It gives you the opportunity to rename this within the tool itself. So if that's a convenient way for you to track these things, you can do that. In this case, I'm just going to stick with it as is. The last step is to actually select the image you just uploaded. All of the other settings you're free to configure, but we've pre-chosen these settings to work optimally with this direct mail piece. So unless you're running into an issue that you want to solve, there's not any reason that you need to go and change everything. We've tried to keep this as easy as possible for you. So we just hit done. These are PDFs on screen rendered in real time. And so as we make changes, you see the changes in real time, and that's looking great. This nonprofit podcast and the address, if I double click on that, you'll see this is pulling directly from the organizational details of my account. And so these are just variables. I could backspace over these. I could change the font if I want to. We'll talk more about fonts and colors here in just a minute. But anyways, I'm just pointing out that these are pulling through your variables. And we have another video posted about changing your organizational details in your profile. So look for that video. The next thing I want to do is modify this envelope headline here, this teaser copy. So I'm going to just make a few changes here. I want to type my own message. So help us broadcast hope. That works really well for my podcast, nonprofit. And then this green is nice, but I would like to use my brand color. And I've got a brand color that I've got in mind here. To change colors, you can see all of the features of this text editor. And one of them is the text color itself. And so you can just drag and drop to choose through this color picker, choose the right palette. That's one way to do it. Or you can enter directly the hex color or CMYK or RGB. We've got a lot of different options there for you. In this case, I know that my brand color is this 970 1EA purple, which matches my logo. And so I hit apply here. And you can see that that change takes place immediately here in my editor. I can also change the font. We've got a number of fonts preloaded, but again at the bottom, there's an option to add custom fonts. You can load your own fonts in here at will, and we'll have another video on that as well, but it's as easy as selecting that and uploading your font. Change your point size, do bold, italic, underline, highlighting colors, all of these different features. Play around and get familiar with this text editor. This is going to be one of the main tools of NovaMail. When I'm finished, I just click done. And it shows up on screen, and that's looking great. This address block here, let's just take a quick look at this. This is a smart address block, and we're not going to make any changes here. This is going to be the address that this package is delivered to. We've got a lot of technology built into this address block, including generating the IMB barcodes and things like that. So unless you want to move this address block or possibly change the font, our best practice advice would be don't make any changes to that. Since we chose the Easter package, I like these eggs, so I'm going to leave these on here. And I think this is ready to go on to the next piece of this job. So as always, remember to hit save. And this is looking great. If you'd like to send this to someone else to review or just to have as a copy for yourself, perhaps to think about later, there is this option for preview. And this will download a single PDF of this for you. And you can see what that looks like in real time in a PDF. You could then download this, send this to someone across the country for review or approval. And then just as a side note, you could also take this URL, which is built in AWS, copy that, and then paste that in an email or whatever messaging tool perhaps you want to Slack that to someone. And then if I just use that URL, they're going to get the same thing. Whoever receives that URL of this PDF, they don't have to sign in to NovaMail to review it. It's available on demand. So take use of that feature. It's a really cool one. All right, we're going to move to the letter and personalize that next. So it loads the letter, and then we're going to update our images, update our text, and all of those. Okay, we're ready to edit our letter. So let me zoom in here. We've got zoom controls on the designer. So we can either choose fit on screen, 75, 100, 200, or just keep zooming in. So I like that. You can see the Control Plus on your keyboard also works as well. Got full scroll capability, and this makes it really easy to use. So again, I'm going to replace my logo here. I want to add my signature on the response ticket. I want to replace the image. There's a number of pieces, so let's just do that all at once so we don't have to upload images more than one more time. So if I just double click on this image, I want to add images, and you can do more than one. So let me just take my RD image. I'll add a number of my logos and my signature. Notice it adds them all at once here. I verify that I own them, and it processes all of those, moves those into the application. It's going to give us an opportunity to rename all of these within the app here if we wanted to keep track of them a different way. Otherwise, we just hit add images. Essentially what that did is it added each of these images to our toolkit here that we can then use whenever we want to. In this case, I want to choose my logo with words in the center and hit done. I'm going to stick with my Easter eggs at the top of this page because I like this package, but that's looking good. All of these borders, again, these are kind of bothering me while I'm working, so I can use my disable the borders, and now this looks really nice. I'm just going to keep working my way down this letter and making a few edits. So in my case, I don't care for a comma between the April and the 2023, so I can just go into the text editor here and make that change, and it happens in real time. The next piece we want to handle is editing the letter. On the website, we've got a template for the letter already written, and so you could pull that up. It's in a Google Doc, make a copy of that, and edit the letter in advance, so when you get here, you're ready to just put it in and do your final edits. Or you're welcome to just double click on the letter and start writing. Make as many changes as you want to. We've already sized this letter to be the right size for this direct mail package. Of course, you can change the spacing, you can change the point size, you can change all of the details of this to fit in as much or as little as you want and make it look great. In my case, I thought about my letter in advance, and so I've got the words written in a Google Doc, and so all I need to do is copy those, and then in my letter here, I come over here and I'm just going to select all of these words and delete them. Again, this is where I could just start writing off the top of my head, but in my case, I'm going to just paste in my words. I'll do some minor edits here just to show you kind of how this goes. I want to increase my spacing between my paragraphs. I kind of just want to look this over as I go. Typically in a direct mail letter, we wouldn't just pack it full of words. Your donors want to know what's going on, and they want to clearly understand how they can help, but they don't necessarily want to read a huge novel. And so do yourself a favor and make your letters readable. In this case, this is looking pretty good. We've pre-selected the fonts for you, but again, you can change the fonts, the point sizes, all of these things. There's lots of settings which we'll cover in other videos. So lastly, I'm just going to hit done. And it's going to re-render this PDF in real time and show me what that looks like. If I want to make any other changes. One thing I wanted to call out, let me go back into this editor a quick second. Notice this dear letter salutation. This is a smart variable using the salutation field within your data file. If you don't have that, this is smart enough to know it's going to substitute dear friend. We have all kinds of features built in like that. This is called a smart block. And so letter salutation is just one of those. The address block is another one where we've got smart features built in to save you time. So in this case, we're just going to leave that as is, dear salutation, but don't worry, if you don't have it, dear friend is going to show up automatically. And I'll show you how to see that. But in this letter, you can see immediately, like, dear Grover, that's coming directly from our data file. And we can see that from the panel on the right. Notice that we've got 11 proof records selected. So NovaMail automatically chooses between 10 and 11 proof records for every job for you based on shortest name, shortest address, longest address, etc. And so that way you can review your letters to make sure that they look good before you print them based on all of these, extreme cases. If you have many thousands of names within your data file, it's really tough to review each one, though you can. So that's why proof records are important, so you can review for all of the edge cases that might impact your design. You can scroll through the records here using the data scroller on the proof records. You could even flip over to the production tab and see every record if that's what you'd like to do. I'm going to keep working my way down this letter. And notice now it says sincerely and my signature is missing. And so what we need to do is supply our image there of our signature. I could also just write that, write my name in that spot and then change it to a script font, whatever I wanted to do. But in this case, I actually have an image. And you notice if I'm hovering my mouse, the tooltip above the block says letter signer front. This is indeed the block that we want to use. So I can just select that block and then use my arrow keys to nudge it up into place. So you get precise control of where this is placed to make it look awesome in your package. Last thing I need to do is actually just choose which image it's going to use. And so I'm going to use this signature. All right, that looks amazing. And we're ready to keep moving. So let's work down our package. This online text block here, this is a way that we could move people towards our website or perhaps towards a custom donation page. For this project, I've got a custom URL that I want to use. So let's just double click this. Notice the website URL is also coming from your organizational profile. So you provided your URL in that data, and so it's pulling that as a variable. I'm going to keep that and just I'll add slash on the air as my custom URL for this job. It's going to render that, and notice it keeps the mysite.org and just adjusts the URL. Detach here is pointing to this light green line. We can see in designer mode here, that's the perforation that's going to be added to this when it's actually produced so that your donors can perforate this response ticket and return it with their gift. Let's finish up our edits on this page and we're ready to move on. I want to update this headline here on the response ticket, so let's edit that. And notice because this is a white knockout font, we've got a checkerboard pattern on the back of the editor so you can see it. I'm going to actually update this to be my brand color. So again, I can just put in a hex and apply that. And I also want to change the words for my podcast here, broadcast hope. My action here, I want to update this as well. I want to help keep spreading the news in these trying times. I'm sending. And we said we were going to update the image on this as well. You don't have to wait for the designer to keep making the changes, so you can just knock through these changes as fast as you can go, and the system will catch up to you. So let's just do that once. So this image here is my RD image. I already uploaded that in the last step. So I choose that, and my logo is my logo with no words. I choose that. And notice how the designer is just catching up on these things as it goes and rendering those. So there's nothing else that you need to worry about. This return information, make payable, you can make changes to that if you want. It's referring to a credit card form on the back, which I'll show you on page 2. It's got your donor information here, which is useful for you as you're receiving these gifts. And then this scan line, which we typically refer to as the scan line, holds the donor account ID if it's present in your data file. And then you could also put a package ID here or anything else. Again, this is just a text block. And notice in this case, we're using donor ID and campaign code. You could put any fields from your data that you would like in this scanline code. It's currently selected as an OCR-A font, but again, you can change that to be whatever you'd like. I want to remember to hit save, just so I keep track of everything. I'm looking this over one last time, and I think this looks great. Before I do, let me fit this on screen, and we can kind of see how this looks. That's going to be a great looking package, and we need to look at the back page. And if you remember, I said that we were going to have just a one-page letter. That's why I put my signature on the front. So let's flip over to the back page, and I'm going to show you some tricks here. Again, we've got boilerplate copy, and this box for the text, there's a lot more room here than I used even on the boilerplate text. So you could have a longer page 2 letter if you want to. And notice there's a signature back there as well. So we're just going to turn all of these things off. So I can select this text box, and I'm just going to choose all text and delete it. The box itself stays, so if you ever change your mind, you can always go back. And then this sidebar text, where it's thanking the donor for their generosity. Again, we're going to turn this off in this case. Same with the letter signer. Cool feature of NovaMail, you can just say image equals none. So you don't need to worry about deleting images. You just set it to none, and it'll render as blank. And then the last thing we need to do is, I don't really feel great about these Easter eggs up here with nothing else on the back. So I want to cover this over. And so in this package, we happen to have these white, it's a 5x5 grid of just white pixels. So I can choose that, and then this fit strategy, we can choose entire, and it'll just fill that entire block with those white pixels. And so I hit done here. Lastly, I'm going to update my logo on the bottom of the RD ticket, and I want my words. Maybe I'll choose a different one this time. We get our logo in there. Let me zoom in and scroll down a little bit and just call out this, the back page of this response ticket here. This credit card back form is also an image, so you can just replace that with your own credit card back if you have a different one that you'd like. Or if your organization doesn't take credit cards, you could just set that image to none, and it would be white back there. Where this other panel is where I placed my logo. You could certainly put your endorsement logos there as well, perhaps for ECFA or GuideStar or whatever organization you happen to have an endorsement from. So in addition to just having your logo there, you could think about what other pieces could you put there. You could put another message of thanks. You could put a different image, perhaps like some sort of a thermometer or measuring, grid of how far you're into your campaign results. The sky's the limit on what you could put in here, and I'm just showing you some examples. So again, I'm going to hit save just to make sure that I've got this all ready to go. And just like we did before, if you'd like to, you can click preview and it will generate a one-page PDF of these actual packages. You can print these off on your office computer and see how these look. And you can see like these are ready to go. These will print and be in your donor's hands in no time. You can send this AWS link. Again, just copy paste that, send that in an email, send it in a Slack, send it in a text message, and your recipient can open this and do a review on screen. This is also handy if you need to do a scan line test based on whatever equipment you're using to scan. Send this link to your tester and they can print this out, run it through the equipment, and make sure the scan line is readable. Back to the package, the last piece we need to review is the return envelope. There's not a lot of customization available here. Every donor is going to get the exact same return envelope, so we're not going to try and personalize these down to the specific person. Every piece within the mail will get the same one. So if you have 1,000 names, 1,000 return envelopes will all be identical. They need to go back to your return address. This again comes from your organizational details as variables, but if you want, you can swap these out. If you use a different service for receiving your mail, or perhaps you have a PO box, you could add that information here and make sure it's totally correct. Once I'm happy and this is ready to go, again, I could download a preview of this, but I'm ready to move on. So you can see at the top of my designer, now I've got green check marks by my carrier, letter, and return. So I'm ready to go check out. And that's what we're going to do next. Click checkout or click next. And from here, we get a summary view of the order. So how many names were in the data file? 264. Based on the quantity, what was the processing fee? Here's all the charges for this job. And note that this is an estimate only. You'll always pay this or less based on the number of mailable records. NovaMail does not charge you if the record is non-mailable. So as soon as you hit order, we'll run it through CAS and NCOA services and determine if any of these addresses won't work. And you'll see that on a following screen. So you know exactly how many pieces you got charged for. And of course, that will all be on your receipt. So we need you to confirm your org details because we want to charge you the right postage based on if you qualify for nonprofit or not. So make sure you go through these. And I've got another video on about how to update your org details. You could just click edit from here as well to update these things. If we don't know your nonprofit authorization number, this would be a great time to do that so you qualify for nonprofit postage. And then the most important part of this is select an in-home target date. Notice that this isn't the date that it leaves the production shop. This is the date that you want it to get in-home with your donors. And so we've built in the lead time necessary for production and travel through the USPS so that it gets to your donor's home in time. It is a range, and it depends on where in the country your donors are at. So as we produce in the middle of the country, addresses in the middle of the country will receive their mail quickly. further out towards the coasts could take an extra day or so. And so in-home target is only a target. It's not a guarantee. And NovaMail has no control over the United States Postal, and no vendor does. So if someone says they can guarantee it, they're not using nonprofit production techniques. Let's select Edit here, and this helps you choose the first available date. And so based on our production schedule right now for this package with the lead time for production and travel, you could choose March 8 as the day you want your donors to receive this. That's a little too early for Easter, perhaps, and maybe you want them to receive it a little closer towards the end of the month of March or maybe beginning of April. So let's choose the week before Easter, which is on April 9. So we'll choose April 3 as the in-home target and hit OK. So now we've got that date locked in, and then the last step is to place your order. We're going to put in our credit card number, and then we click this checkbox. By checking this box, we verify that we've reviewed, and we understand that after we do this, there are no more changes available. So if you're looking at your PDFs, a day from now, and you're like, oh rats, I wish I had fixed that, it's too late. So you need to fix it now while you can. And so you can always go back on the website, click Design Your Letter. You can go back and make as many changes as you want. But as soon as I click this box, it means there's no more changes available. I'm going to put in my credit card number here. So just bear with me 1 second. I'm going to pause the video while I do that. All right, I've got my credit card information in and I'm ready to go. I've looked everything over. I'm really confident about this. I know that NovaMail has an awesome production capability, and this package, as the PDFs look, will be in my donor's hands around that first week of April based on my selected date. So I'm going to click Pay Now. And our order starts processing immediately. So you can walk away from the screen now, you can close it down, it doesn't have any impact on anything, or you can hang out. It's going to take a couple of minutes, but it goes through the CAS, it goes through NCOA, the pre-sort process. It's going to produce all of the pieces as PDFs and bundle those up, send those off to the production vendor. And so this will take between 2 and 3 minutes to do all this processing. So let me hit pause here, and we'll be right back. All right, we're back. The processing has completed, and here we are at the final screen. So we can see the final amount paid after reducing the records that aren't mailable. We're down to 234 mailable records, and then I've got copies of all of the PDFs. So notice here, if I select like these carrier envelopes, it's not just one. These are all now in sorted order. And based on the data file, I know I've got some duplicates in there, so I'm not worried about that. But I've got 234 PDFs that are fully mailable, each one of these with a IMB barcode with mail tracking enabled. So these are all good to go. You could download that file for your records. Same with the letter fronts and backs. And again, if you wanted to share these with someone, you could copy that URL, send that URL to someone, and they would have access to all of these now that you've bought them. And so these letters all look great. Same with the return envelopes. We won't look at those today. Those are all 234 of the same thing. And then we can look at downloaded reports. You've got the NCOA and CAS errors report. So look those over and determine, why did those 30 records that didn't mail, why didn't they mail? Those are all listed in these reports here. If I look at the receipt, I can see the amount paid matches the dashboard, $463.32. Back on my project screen, once the project has mailed, we'll actually have mail tracking available for you, and that will have the links ready to go. There's nothing else for you to do on this. Your project is available on your projects page at any time. So if I click on the projects screen, we can see my Easter podcast letter. Checkout's been completed. My in-home target is April 3rd. And I would be ready to move on to my next project. Perhaps I want to get my May project stood up at this point, and then just start building out your marketing calendar. If I want to get back into this job for any reason, I can open it. One very cool feature of this is the ability to clone. So if you've got this job set up the way you'd like, clone this project and make your next one. There'll be more information coming on that feature with a walkthrough. So tune into our YouTube channel for that down the road. If you've got any questions, as always, feel free to reach out using the website. And we'll talk again soon.